All right, we want to welcome everybody to episode number 13, and we're excited to be back and have this guy here, my buddy Adam Parker here, sitting here next to me, and I'm going to introduce him in here in just a few minutes, but we appreciate everybody that's tuning in. We're going to give everybody a little bit of time to come in here before I talk about Adam and introduce him, but we want to thank B&B Custom Outdoors. We want to thank AA Graphics and Signs, Jill of All Trades, Simpson Trucking and Grading, Tangle Trout Cabin Rentals, Captain Max, which is a good friend of yours as well, yep. And Heads Up to Taxidermy, Mr. Tracy Parker. Appreciate all those guys that have partnered with us and and helped put this together. I had to ask what episode this was. I couldn't remember, but episode number 13. It's kind of hard to believe that we've already done that many episodes. It seems like that it's flew by, really. But so look, guys, everybody knows that we're pretty striper heavy. We're striper guys, everybody knows that, but I thought it would be good to get somebody different in here that does something besides just striper fishing, and I'm looking forward to this tonight because I feel like I'm gonna learn something from this guy here sitting next to me. I got a lot of questions, stuff I've been thinking about all day that I want to ask him, and we're gonna talk a little bit about walleye fishing too. I've had some guys that's asked me some stuff about that, and I feel like it's the time of year to bring that up. It's also the time of year to do what you do, and that's go catch crappie.
That's it.
So, but anyway, so look, we'll I don't know if we've got anybody in here yet or not, but we're gonna give away a couple more hats. I still got hats that Bill Carson left with Humminbird. Are you a Humminbird guy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we got another Humminbird brother in here with us. We're going to give away 2 Humminbird hats tonight. So if you comment on our live feed, you'll have a chance at winning a Humminbird hat if you don't already have one. Even if you do, you still, I mean, you can always use a hat, you know. Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it, and I want Adam to introduce himself for those that don't know you. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am Adam Parker. I crappie fish a lot. That's my passion. But I do guide for stripers. Everybody loves to catch a striper.
Yeah.
But I've growed up fishing Lanier, catching crappie with my dad and well, now my father-in-law and my buddies that just loved to fish, and we'd go catch crappie, and it was fun going shooting docks, fishing brush. And then over the years it's gotten more serious. You start pushing for crappie and start pulling for crappie, and next thing you know, you've got a whole boat full of rods and
like 25 rods at one time kind of thing, or?
No, most of the time I try to keep my trolling rods down to 8.
8.
4 out the front and 4 out the back, and then put the mini max on planer boards off the T-top.
So you're doing that. So you're striper fishing as you're crappie fishing, if you're trolling for crappie.
Yep, if I'm trolling for crappie, I'll put a striper rig out there and catch spots, largemouth, catch it all.
Yeah, so you know what? You know something I've heard, actually several people, a friend of ours, Mickey Wheeler, he told on the Fish North Georgia podcast, that's how he got hooked on striper fishing, was him and his dad used to go crappie fishing on Lake Lanier and fish under the bridges. Mm-hmm. And he hooked an 8-pound striper on a little crappie rod on probably, I don't know, 4 or 6 pound test. And he said he was hooked. He said after that, he started trying to figure out, how to catch stripers. So, there's something to, I think there's something to that, guys. Why do stripers hang out around crappie? I personally think that they'll eat crappie. Well, don't you agree with that?
Yes, very much so.
I've actually, I think I can say this, but I've actually caught stripers on crappie. It's legal if you catch them on a hook. You just can't catch them in a cast net and use them for bait, right?
Well, that's my understanding of the rule there. The biggest striper I ever caught, I was catching some really nice 3/4 pound to a pound crappie on the main dock on the main river channel. And next cast, instead of a crappie hitting it, it was a 25-pound striper, and we fought till I got him in the boat.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because you've got that profile of a gizzard shad, pretty much. I mean, if you put a gizzard shad and a crappie next to each other, there's a lot of similarities in that profile. So I can see that. I can personally see stripers feeding on crappie more than I could like them. We've talked about it on this show before about stripers eating bass. You know, I think they'd be more apt to eat a crappie than they would be a bass. But years ago on Altoona, when I was working for Robert Edison, we had a tough morning catching bait. Everybody was you know, we had some thread fins, but it was, you know, tough. And I caught some crappie that morning under my green light on a rod and reel. I put a few of them in my bait tank. We caught some 12, 15-pound stripers down there that day on them crappie, you know. So I know die-hard crappie guys might not want to hear that, but it's the circle of life.
That's it.
It's the circle of life. There's plenty of crappie in Lake Lanier. Let's talk a little bit about that. That's where you do most of your fishing. So, I mean, how do you go about, you know, I mean, what kind of stuff are you looking for when you go out crappie? Have you just got your places you've marked over the years that you go back to, or is it kind of like striper fish where you got to constantly be out there looking for new stuff?
Well, it's always good to find the new stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, the other day I was digging through some fishing stuff and I found a notebook. It's probably 7 or 8 years old, but it had notes in it from full moon, no moon, water temperature, how many crappie I caught over here at this dock or that dock, the notes. And still to this day,
Go back to that.
you can go back to that, and that little book's 7, 8 years old. And they're close. They're somewhere close by.
Yeah, yeah. So crappie don't necessarily move around like stripers do, but they can transition from one pattern to another. You've already made mention that, you know, you're flipping docks or you're fishing brush piles versus you're out trolling. So if you're out trolling, that tells me, I mean, you're not trolling necessarily around targeting brush piles. You're out trolling the creek channels and open water and stuff too. So, man, we had a kid, I think he was on Mickey's boat a couple years ago, caught like a 3.5-pound crappie on a downline LY striper fishing. And we're going to talk about that too. We've already talked about it, you know, before the show. We talked a little bit about how, and that goes back to the you know, the walleye thing. I asked you if you'd ever done any walleye fishing. You said not really. You've caught them as you were striper fishing or as you was crappie fishing. So kind of the same way with me with the walleye. I've never really went out and said, all right, we're going to go target walleye. But I have caught them while we're striper fishing or even just live bait fishing. You know, there's times when we're live bait fishing, we're catching bass, we're catching, you know, walleye, we're catching stripers, hybrids. There's times where we're catching all of it if they're all in the same areas, same depths. But there is some ways to target walleye, and we're going to talk a little bit more as we go about that into that show. But I don't want to get away from the crappie yet and get on the walleye yet. We got a long time into this thing. But hey, we've already got a few guys that's come on here. Jason Watkins, he said crappie was his favorite kind of fishing. So hey, if you want to fill a cooler up, I've always told people, Adam, the best eating fish in our freshwater lakes are crappie or walleye. That's the best eating fish. That's the best eating fish. I'll take that over anything else. I mean, yes, stripers are okay, but I'd take a mess of crappie over a couple big stripers any day, man. I mean, that's just me. Maybe it's because the stripers are near and dear to my heart, but that's just how I feel. So I think there's a lot of other people that feel that way too. So appreciate Jason. We got Gary Waters in here, Mike Chastain, Tom Pickett, Rodney, Mark Crawford. Hey, I hope Mark Crawford, man, I hope you're doing good, but we've been praying for you. I know you've had a lot of health issues and been thinking about you. Appreciate your support, dude. And got Jason on here. He said, all right, so we got, Rodney said he had someone asking him to take them crappie fishing. So super interested tonight. So yeah, maybe you can learn something, Rodney. And if you don't learn enough to take them fishing, then, you know, you can book a trip with this guy right here next to me, and it sounds like he can take care of you. So we appreciate everybody. Everybody's coming all in here at one time. So we got Hunter Hooks in here. Captain Hook, I mean, I've been trying to get Captain Hook on here for a while, man. And, you know, anybody with the last name Hook, he was bound to be a fishing guide. We got to get him on here, man. No other way around it. So Gunner says hi. I guess you know Charles and Gunner. Little guy that loves striper fishing.
I'm pretty sure I do. I had to see their face.
Well, you probably would if you seen them. So, hey, we appreciate them. we actually gonna have Charles and Gunner on here. We're gonna, you know, we're always on here yakking, talking about fishing, and we want to get it from different perspectives. And what better than to have a young kid? I'm actually not sure exactly how old Gunner is, but he's a little fella. But we're gonna have him on here, him and his dad. They're coming April 28th. I had to have my notes over here to remember all this stuff. But so even though we're gonna talk about crappie and walleye tonight, guys, we've got some good stuff lined up coming up. And I want to make mention of that. We're going to be kind of striper heavy on most of these next few episodes, but the next episode, next time we come on the air, we'll be on February 10th. We're going to have Robert Edison on here from Lake Altoona. Most everybody knows Captain Rob, and we're going to have Steve Mark on here that works for Robert. And then on February 24th, we got a bass guy coming. We love the bass guys too. We got James Harmon, Lanier Jim. I know you know James.
Yes,
He's going to be coming in here talking with us on February 24th. And March 10th, I just got this set up, so I'm excited to announce this. I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to this. We got Clay Cunningham coming. Captain Clay, catching, not fishing. And Tate Watkins is going to come with him. We're going to get Tate back on here, and we just broke him in on that last one, so we're going to get him back on here and talk to him a little bit. So appreciate everybody. All right, Amanda said Gunner's 7. So we're going to get a 7-year-old kid in here, and I want him to get on here and you know, tell what he loves about fishing. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, I mentioned this the last time. They're going fishing these tournaments at Murray and Hartwell. It's 30 degrees. This kid's out here fishing. He loves it, man.
That's good.
That's good, ain't it?
So
Let's talk about that a little bit. You said you had a 5-year-old girl. I got a 5-year-old son. You said your girl liked catching. She didn't like fishing. Maybe she needs to go with Clay.
Might need to.
She may need to go with Clay. I got a lot of questions for Clay. I've already been thinking about stuff. I'm excited about getting him on here and talking to him. But I want to know if Clay's ever had that threw up at him. If he's ever had a bad trip and didn't catch fish. If somebody said, well, how can you name your guide service catching, not fishing, and not catch fish? I can't wait to ask him that question, because we've all been there. Have you not been there?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, look, let's get back. I've got off subject here yakking, but let's get back to, you know, to talking about crappie. Sounds like to me there's similarities with crappie and striper as far as you're going to be very dependent upon your electronics.
Yes.
And finding those fish. You got to know where them brush piles are at, have those brush piles marked. But if that brush pile thing's not happening, if they're not schooled up over them brush piles, you know, what's your second? I mean, what are you doing next?
Well, my number one is dock shooting. That's just shooting,
flipping jigs under
the docks, between the pontoon and the motor. To me, that's the challenging. That's the hard one.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I love to do.
That takes practice and
that
technique.
takes a lot of practice and technique.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody come down yelling at you, dock owners?
Yes. Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, it happens about every year.
Yeah.
But you know, be respectful of their stuff, and you know, try your hardest not to land it in the boat.
As long as you're not hitting the dock or hitting their boat.
Right.
I mean, nobody owns the water, right?
Nobody owns the water.
So I've seen some videos of some pretty, you know, we don't do a lot of fishing around docks. The closest I come to dock fishing is at Notley, because there's a lot of houses, a lot of docks, and a lot of times we'll pull planer boards around there. Mm-hmm. And that even brings up another subject. I'm sure maybe you could tell me, I hadn't been on Lanier a lot, but on Notley, a lot of dock owners are putting these buoys out away from their docks to try to deter people from coming in there around their docks. Now, whether it be to keep them out completely, or whether it's just trying to keep people from being on plane up that close to the dock, you know, which I've always tried to be. If I get in a tight area and there's docks, let's just say like 2 Mile on Lake Lanier. It's a narrow creek. Going back in there, you got docks there, where I've always tried to slow down, you know, and not just wake them out, you know.
Yes.
But like I said, man, nobody owns the water. And unfortunately, those docks are going to be good for crappie. They're going to be good for bass a lot of times, and people are going to be fishing them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about it. But I guess I could see it though. As a homeowner with a dock, You know, people down there all the time fishing around your dock. So I've talked to guys that's done dock fishing at night, like for stripers or whatever. And a lot of people, a lot of homeowners, they'll go down there and turn their lights off so that people leave. They just don't want people down there around their stuff, you know. So I mean, I get it. I kind of get it. I understand it. But at the same time, we're fishermen, so we see a good spot, man, we're gonna go out there and fish it.
Fish love structure.
Yeah. So have you got spots all over Lake Lanier, or have you got a certain area of the lake? Somebody said don't tell everything.
Yeah, that was my dad.
That was your dad.
Don't tell
so
everything.
You probably learned everything. You probably learned everything you know from your dad. So yeah. So all right. So Adam's dad said he couldn't tell everything. He ain't gonna tell we ain't gonna let him tell everything. I know how that is, but we're gonna try to help people out a little bit right here, and hopefully to where they could get out on these lakes. And now Carter's Lake is not known for crappie. You can catch crappie at Carter's, but I've never really known of anybody to go up there and just fill a cooler full of crappie like you can at Lanier or Altoona. Now I do know guys that do it at Notley. I see guys doing it, but it's certain times of the year. So let's talk about that. I mean, is right now not your prime time for crappie fishing?
This is from December till basically first part of spring when they start going shallow. I love the wintertime fishing.
Yeah.
They just seem to
Is that when they're grouped
jammed up? They'll get under a dock or on the brush, and it's just they just so many fish. It's like if they ain't biting, you wonder you tying on every jig you got in the boat, trying to figure out all these fish that's on this structure, dock or brush pile. Why ain't they eating?
Yeah.
But they're this time of the year they get so schooled up. It can be really rewarding.
So now are you doing, you know, just artificial, just using the jigs with the trailers, or are you got live bait for a backup?
Live bait for a backup.
Okay.
For the most part,
You can tip them jigs with that shiner and catch them too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like I say, I know a little bit. I know how to catch a crappie. I've just never put in enough time. Sounds like to me that, you know, if you've never done it and you want to do it, like Rodney was asking, sounds like to me you're gonna have to get there and do a lot of riding around, and with your graph, and you're gonna have to find these brush piles, mark these places, and figure out, because you know it's just that seems like to be the biggest difference in that and striper fishing, where our stripers move around so much. I mean, it's so unpredictable. They can be all over the place. So, Tom Pickett, what he said, who does? I think he's talking about the guy. All right, Johnny's in here. He said they can complain about us fishing their docks, but I'm sure it's better than the wake boats and the big cruisers beating them up. Hey, that is true, man. I'm gonna tell you something. You know, I know everybody likes to have fun out on the water, but man, these wakeboard boats have got ridiculous. And I mean, they have put a lot of damage on a lot of docks. Hey, there's lakes in Alabama, they've outlawed wakeboard boats. I wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind it myself.
I mean, because hey, we're out here, 90% of the people are out here fishing on bass boats or center console boats, and I mean, you get these wakeboard boats out here, especially in the summertime, and you know, I understand they're doing their thing, they're having fun, but it is a nuisance to us when we're trying to catch fish, and it can be very stressful when you got customers on the boat that's paying, and they're wanting to catch fish, you're wanting to catch fish, and then you got all these, you know, that's just something that. That's another thing about being a fishing guide. That's something you have to try to overcome.
Challenges.
But hey, look, I've seen some really high dollar nice docks. Not only that, but high dollar boats tied up in them docks. And man, them wake. I mean, the wake off those wakeboard boats are just beating them boats and docks up. And that's why they've been outlawed and on certain lakes, I think, in Alabama. So, hey, I wouldn't. You know, hey, they should. Keith McKinnon said he heard that Burton banned them.
That'd be good for the perch fishing.
Well, see, Burton is a small lake. Burton is a small lake. You know, here's my thing. If I was a wakeboarder, which I'm not, never have been, never will be, but if I was a wakeboarder, I'd want to get out in the open water, the biggest part of the water I can, where there's nobody around, and do my thing. Most people do that, but not everybody.
Nope.
Not everybody. We'll be back in here in this creek fishing this pocket, and all of a sudden here comes a wakeboard boat. And it's like, what in the world are you doing back here? You know. So hey, be respectful of people fishing, man. I mean, as a fisherman, you know, we try to respect each other for the most part.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, these guys, even though, and look, I think a lot of it is they just don't understand. They don't know. They don't understand that what they're doing is you know, it's hurting us because we're over here trying to catch a fish and the water's churned up and they're not used to that.
Right.
Carter's Lake's just like Burton. It's small and, you know, pretty laid back and calm most of the time, not a lot of boats. So you get all that boat stuff going on out there, man, it can change things up.
In a hurry.
So Russ said, you got to hate the jet fleas too. I don't hate jet fleas. I don't hate nobody, but yeah, I've had a few run-ins with those too over the years. I think everybody has too. But anyway, we got to get off of that, man, or it's going to get deep.
That one can get real deep real fast.
Yeah, it can get real deep. So, you know, but hey, I always keep my big, I think I got one hanging. No, that's a little one. But I always keep a Ben Parker spoon tied up year round. And my thing is, you know, if I can hit somebody with that Ben Parker spoon, if I can cast it and hit them with it, they're too close, man.
Yeah, that's.
So let me ask you that. Let me ask you this. That made me think of something else. Is this crappy stuff? Is it kind of like stripers where you get on them, you start catching them, next thing you know, you got other boats in there on you too, trying to fish the same stuff? Or is that, does everybody kind of know they got to do their own thing to be successful? What's the deal on that?
Well, it depends on where you at. A lot of Lanier, everybody wants to keep them good crappy spots to themselves.
Yeah, on the down low.
Yeah, they want to keep that quiet.
Yeah.
Now you go to, like we've been to Lake Oconee, Lake Wise, and you just get in line. Everybody, they'd be 15 boats making a circle.
Oh, man.
And everybody just gets in line, talking. Everybody's having a good time.
Talking and then
Yeah, and everybody's
until it
catching
turns
fish.
into a fight.
No,
As long as everybody's catching fish,
everybody's
it's good.
catching fish, everybody's good.
Yeah. I've done the wade in line fishing in Tennessee at the dams. I ain't crazy about that, man. I just don't like sitting there having to wait my turn and watching other people catch fish. I want to be the one catching them, you know.
And see, that's the good thing about like Oconee. The first time we ever long line, me and a buddy of mine, we watched videos on it. I probably wasn't 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna go do some of that long line trolling.
Yeah.
Me and him got to talking about it. Let's go to Oconee. We go to Oconee. We pull into a cove, first pass. You couldn't tell us nothing. We rolled up in here and caught all these fish and got the big heads. The next weekend we went and we struggled.
Yeah.
First part of the morning, and the guy said, come on. We jumped in line. There was 10 boats, and everybody had their long lines and pushing rods out, and it was just make a circle. Merry-go-round. You got your limit you left.
Yeah, I've done the merry-go-round in Flat Creek too. Been a long time though. I don't do that much anymore, but I know most of these guys know what I'm talking about. The merry-go-round in Flat Creek. If you see the merry-go-round in Flat Creek, they's probably fishing there, but they done seen everything under the sun, man. It could be tough to catch too. Yeah. We've seen it go both ways. I've seen everybody be back there and everybody's catching fish, and then I've seen everybody be back there and there'd be 2 or 3 boats catching fish and everybody else watching. So that's the tough part about that too. So Keith said he had surfers. Oh God, he done mentioned Flat Creek too. He had surfers in Flat Creek when the water temp was 50. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
crazy.
want to stick my hand in there.
That's crazy. I dread getting the bait out of the bait tank, more or less getting in the water like that. That's unreal. So, so he said long lining on Altoona is like that, 10 to 15 boats in a group. So when you're trolling for crappie, you already made mention that you put your mini-max out in case you get a bonus striper. Mm-hmm. But what are you trolling for the crappie? You're just trolling jigs or?
Trolling jigs, like when I'm long line, well, most of the time I'll be pushing 4 rods out the front and pulling 4 long lines out the back.
Yeah.
On the front, I think most of the time I use a 14 and 16 foot rods.
Long rods.
Long rods, and I put a 1/2 ounce. Most of the time a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 of an ounce sinker with one of the little rubber bobber stops and a 16th ounce jig head with a curly tail, and those would be my front rods. That 1/2 ounce jig will pretty much keep it vertical, straight up and down.
Yeah.
Especially running
Using
point
planer
eight.
boards?
No, not on them. They're 14 and 16 foot. You
spread them out with that
spread
long
them
rod.
out and they ain't.
So
gonna
is
bother
that, I've always seen people crappie fishing with these long rods. Well, tell me what the purpose of that is. Is it so that fish don't feel the weight of that rod, or?
I don't know if it's so much of that or just getting away from the boat.
Getting them away from the boat.
Getting away from the boat, and it just, because if you're using a 6 foot rod, you're standing on the bow of the boat.
Yeah.
You just right there at the trolling mode.
And I guess the downside to the planer board thing, because we all know to be able to get a planer board to really plane out good beside the boat, usually you have to have a pretty good sized planer board.
Yeah.
Now Matthew Peace, if he may be listening, he may not be, but he's been making up some planer boards, which everybody knows I make my own too. But he showed me one that he made at the Oakwood Striper Club, and it was a little bitty, lightweight, tiny board. And he said he'd been pulling herring on them, and he said they planed out great. And I thought, man, that would be perfect for crappie trolling with that little bitty board, because I could see where you wouldn't want to take one of my planer boards, because the weight of that planer board would take away so much of the fight of that crappie. You know, it wouldn't be as fun. You know what I mean? Because you're fighting the planer board, not the fish. Basically.
Yeah.
So, but you know, they do make those planer floats. A lot of people use them little floats that plane out. They plane out a little bit, but I see what you're saying though. With a 14 foot rod, I mean, my gosh, you get that thing out there. So you're just basically flatlining, and you just got your 8 rods spread out the back. You got your 2 rods in the T-top with your mini max, and you're probably putting those on boards.
Those on boards are, one of them I'll put on a 1 ounce sinker and just let it hit bottom and lock the bail. The other one be on a planer board, just to give them different options.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this. I feel like this time of the year is when somebody like you is really gonna shine, because we know, even us guys that love to fish big baits, we know that, and if we're fishing tournaments this time of year, we're still using big baits because we're trying to get that 1 or 2 big bite. But you know, I mean, I can see where you guys could really shine this time of year, because the fish are primarily keyed in on real small stuff. And I think that's a lot of the reason why you're catching them on the little jigs, the shiners, the trolling stuff's obviously, I mean, everybody knows this time of year, that's your backup. You know, that's my backup. Some people, it's their go-to. Hey, we got guys that's been in here like Brandon Davis and obviously Mac Farr and Bill Carson. That's all they're gonna do. But when Bill was in here, he said that the last tournament they fished live bait for 2 hours, and it just wasn't happening. So he switched up to trolling and started catching fish. You know, that's just his thing. Yeah. That's what he does. That's what he's comfortable with. So, you know, this time of the year, man, hey, Johnny said he's pulled gizzard shad on those boards, on them little bitty boards I'm talking about. So that's interesting too, because I know back in the day they used to have some of these little small planer boards, and I like the fact that they were lightweight and they didn't put a lot of drag on the bait, or the fish didn't feel the weight of it as much when they hit the bait. But the problem was, if you put a 12, 14, 16-inch shad on it, that shad would pull that planer board around all over your spread. It'd have everything tangled up. So I'm interested in that, Johnny. If that little old planer board would pull that big shad out beside the boat and keep it there, I'm impressed. Yeah. I want to see that. I'm impressed. I might buy some from Matthew. I'm serious, because that's impressive. Because that was, when I built my boards, that was my whole thing. I wanted to make something light enough that the fish didn't feel the weight of it, or it didn't put a lot of drag on the bait. But it still had to be big enough to get out there, to get out beside the boat, stay out there and handle that big bait.
Right.
So I'm interested in that, Johnny. We got to get together sometime, man, go fishing or catch some bait or do something. So, hey, I appreciate everybody that's come in here, and we hope you guys have already learned something. I'm gonna keep picking Adam's brain. We got him in here for an hour, and we're only 30 minutes in this thing. So let me ask you this, and if you know, I don't want to do anything to get you in the doghouse with your dad, but have you got a favorite color on your trailers when you're using these jigs?
Yes, this time of year I love using white, monkey milk.
Monkey milk. What the heck is monkey milk?
Fancy word for white.
A fancy word for white? Okay.
Just a little different shade, you know?
Like a bone, maybe? Okay.
Like a bone.
Okay.
And then you got the Blue Thunder, and
Yeah.
a lot of times in the wintertime they'll get on like a Cajun cricket. It's an orange and
Red.
lime green and red.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like don't make no sense, but hey, it's what they want.
So you just
give it to them.
Yeah. So hey, the good thing about having 8 rods or whatever it is you're using,
Mix 'em up.
Mix it up. You know.
The 4 rods that I run out the back, I tie double 16ths. Just a double 16th jig, 2 jig heads, about 14 to 16 inches apart.
Kind of like a half a sabiki rig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Just a piece of the sabiki rig with
Yep.
2 16th ounce jigs.
Yep.
And that's 8 jigs on the back of the boat. Mm-hmm. And you just throw them out as far as you can throw it with a 6-foot rod. But that's 8 jigs, and you can put 8 different colors on there.
Yeah.
And you can start really tuning in. Okay, they're wanting a blue jig today, so you change everybody out to a blue jig, and you're sitting fine until you move to the next spot, and they're wanting
You got something else.
chartreuse.
Yeah, that's crazy because most everybody knows we don't experience that with striper fishing. I mean, I have said it's hard to beat that chartreuse or white when you're trolling. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just feel like there's something about that chartreuse, man. Them stripers seem like they love that. That gets their attention.
Yep.
But I don't think they're as color coordinated as maybe these crappie can be or bass or whatever. But sounds like it can be a lot more of a finesse type fishing.
Yes, it can be one of those pull your hair out. Especially, like, a lot of people love running live scope.
Yeah, I knew that was going to get brought up.
I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
I love the ideal of it. But the times that I have used it on a friend of mine's boat, one brush pile, I see all the crappie. I don't like being rejected by the crappie.
Yeah.
I want to catch them,
Yeah.
and I'll sit there.
So
and
you're doing it the old school way.
old school
Hey,
way.
I know other guys that's doing it the old school way, and they're still doing it.
Because I get hung up on.
But
look at all these crappie, and I can't leave.
Yeah.
Burning too much time.
Yeah. But if they're not, that's tough, man. You're sitting there seeing them. You dropping that jig down, you're seeing their reaction to them.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I can see where that live scope, you could really, I can see where mentally it could hurt you, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if you could ever break yourself from that and know what you're looking for, know that when you drop that jig down, you see it go down, you see how those fish react to that. Mm-hmm. And you know if them fish are actively feeding or not. And if once you got it instilled in your brain, all right, these fish are not reacting to our baits like I need them to, pull up and go to your next thing. But that is hard to do.
It's
man
hard, especially when you got all the colors that you can think of. It's like, I'm gonna try this one, I'm gonna try that one.
I have left fish to find fish and not be able to find them.
There you go.
Now, not crappy, but
It's still the same way.
Yeah, I've had times like that. So Rodney said, what are the legal size and quantity limits for crappie on Lake Lanier?
Well, they're no link size,
Right.
but you can keep 30 a person.
30 a person.
Yep.
Of any size.
Any size.
But so there's not a too big that you got to turn back or a too small.
No.
Okay, so that answers that question. But obviously, you'd want to, if it was me, if I was wanting to try to take meat home, I'd want to turn the smaller ones back and keep the bigger ones. Was that not how y'all do, or at least after you?
I like a perfect eating size to me is a 10-inch or bigger crappie.
Okay.
10
Anything
inches
smaller and ain't worth cleaning.
Yeah, you're gonna have to leave the scale or scale him and cut his head off and fry him whole.
Use the whole fish, right.
10-inch crappie, you can fillet him.
Yeah, so it's a little different. Where with a striper, you catch, you can get 2 good sized stripers, man. A couple people can eat on that. But
yeah,
if you're gonna have a fish fry with crappie, you're gonna have to go get a cooler full. And this guy right here can hook you up with that now. So we talked a little bit before the show, and you told me you'd been doing this guiding. You went and got your captain's license, and you've been doing this, guiding for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But you've been crappie fishing over there. You grew up on Lake Lanier. That's what you told me when you come in here.
Yeah, grew up on
So you probably know that thing, especially if you're, I feel like the crappie guys probably know the lakes better than we do, because a lot of times we're going over these places, we're pulling, we're trying to cover water, we're not sitting on these brush piles fishing. But it sounds like with what you do, you got to really slow down sometimes, and it's a finesse thing,
Yeah, me and Daddy joke all the time if we're out there goofing off crappie fishing. If you think you're reeling too slow, slow down.
Man, that'd be tough.
You ain't reeling slow enough.
That'd be tough for me. I'm used to pulling gizzards about mile and a half per hour.
Yeah.
That'd be tough for me,
And
man.
then and you see them a lot of times. Your line will pause.
Yeah.
As it's sinking and you're throwing at a brush pile or shooting under a dock, your line will just stall out for a second. Crappie's got it in his mouth, and then lets go of it, and it's like, oh man, he wrote me a love letter, and I just lost it.
Yeah, that's a definitely that's a different kind of thing. So Chase Plott, hey bud, I appreciate you coming in here. He said, "What's your favorite crappie lake?" So I know your primary lake is Lanier, but have you ventured out? I know you talked about Oconee, but have you got some other places you've done some crappie fishing too?
Yeah, I've been to Wise Lake in Alabama.
Okay.
And to me, wintertime over there, you can't go over there, and you got to read the regulations with how many rods you can have.
It's different.
It's different. It's different.
Everything's different in Alabama.
Everything. But 10-inch crappie is the size limit. It was over there the last time we was there. But you could just troll through there, and they'd be acres of crappie, and they was ready to eat. And every time we went over there, we had a great success.
Yeah.
Great numbers, and it just seemed like a whole lot easier lake than Lanier.
So Lionel Castillo is calling me right now. I'm gonna have to call you back, Lionel. I'm doing a podcast right now. I'll have to call you back later. So I hope you ain't mad at me, but I'll get back with you here in a little bit. So Jason Watkins said he'd love to see Doug Youngblood on the show. I would too, Jason. Doug Youngblood is a legend. I mean, but I'm gonna tell you something. He's and he's been very successful, but he stays on the down low. That's just that's his style. He don't advertise. He don't get on here and really show what he's got going on. I respect him for that. He's old school. Yeah. He's old school, and Doug's been around a long time. Great fisherman, and I learned some stuff from Doug. He don't even know I learned it from him, but because I was out there fishing close to him, and I might have told this on here before, but that's when I first started striper fishing. I didn't know nothing about thumping, and we was out there next to Doug one day, and we're marking fish, and he's over there scrambling around like he's marking fish. None of us catching nothing, and all of a sudden he pulls this stick. It was a pool stick. He pulls this pool stick out, and he starts beating on the boat. And next thing you know, he's got 2 fish hooked up. Me and Brandon looked at each other like, what in the heck did he just do? And we picked up on it pretty quick. This has been years ago. This is before a lot of people knew about it, okay? So I learned something from Doug Youngblood. I wasn't real up close to him, but I was close enough to know to see what was going on.
I was 18 or 19 when I said, I want to go learn how to catch striper.
You went with Doug?
I went with Doug, and wound up with a 19 and a 21 pounder on that trip.
Doug's a great guy, man.
He's a good one.
Yeah, so look, Doug's probably not watching. He's probably in the bed. He's got to get up early, probably and go fish tomorrow, but he stays pretty busy. But for you guys that know Doug Youngblood, reach out to him and tell him we'd love to have him on here. Yeah. We'd love to have him on here. I've talked to him a couple times at the boat ramps and stuff. He probably don't even really know who I am. Like I say, he stays on the down low, and but he gets out there and does his thing, catches fish. He's got a clientele base. He's probably, since Dale Sheets passed away, he's probably been doing it longer than anybody, over there. I would say him and Mac.
Yeah.
And that's somebody else that I know you said has been a lot of help to you.
Yes.
Captain Mac. And we've had Captain Mac on here, and Haley was talking about him today, and we hope he's doing well. I hadn't talked to him in a couple months, but I hope he's doing well. I seen he's been posting some stuff on Facebook, so that's always good. And
talked to him this morning.
Did you talk to him this morning? So was he in good spirit?
Yeah, Our conversation was all about fishing.
Yeah, that's Mac.
That's Mac all day long.
That's
Fish,
good.
Fish. I
All
love
right.
it.
I know you're normal, Mac, because you're still talking fishing. So, yeah, we're glad to hear that Mac's doing good. And hope we can get him back on here this year sometime, maybe later in the year. So look, we're 40 minutes in this thing, and man, Lionel left me a message. He must really need something. But we want to talk about walleye fishing a little bit. And after talking to you about crappie fishing, I feel like there's a lot of similarities in the way you could go about if you want to so-called target walleye. You know, I think you got you two ways. You got your vertical jigging, or I would probably, my preference would be using a spoon for walleye, a small spoon. I've caught a lot of walleye on flex-it spoons, dropping them deep. I've caught them at Carter's Lake. I've pulled walleye from 90 foot deep on them spoons. Now it takes a while even to get a spoon that's, you know, them things are they're pretty heavy. I don't remember the weight on them. But it takes a while to get one down to 90 foot. But if you're patient enough, you see those fish down there deep, I'm telling you, man. So one thing I want to tell everybody about walleye that I have learned. I don't know everything about walleye, but I do know this. They don't like daylight. They don't like sunlight. They're almost nocturnal. On a bright bluebird sky day, them fish are going to be deep. Now there is a couple occasions in the spring when they're spawning, if you can catch it just right, where they may be all piled up somewhere and up shallow, especially at nighttime. But during the daytime, man, I have learned them fish do not like the sun. And they're a finicky fish too.
Yeah.
But I also know people that troll for them, but they probably troll a little bit different than what you're talking about. You know, most of these guys are trolling for them. They're using dipsy divers. They're using stuff to get whatever it is they're using, whether it be a spoon or some type of lure, to get it down. So I know guys that'll go out over the main river channel at Carter's. It's 250 foot deep, and they'll troll that river channel out over that deep timber. And they're wanting to get their baits down there 60, 70, 80 foot deep down, and they're trolling them like that. You know, you got to know what you're doing, because you get a big trolling spread out and you hook a treetop and you got to stop. You got to mess. So here's my thing, guys. I'm not a walleye fisherman. I have caught them, but I've caught them. Everyone I've caught while I was striper fishing. I've caught walleye on spoons. I've caught them on live bait. Let me back up. Not only have I caught them, I've caught them, probably most of them I've caught on the LYs, which is our herring that we have. But the biggest walleye I ever caught was on a gizzard shad, like a medium, just a medium gizzard shad. But the spoons on artificial, I'm not saying you couldn't catch a walleye on a crappie jig, but good luck getting it to 90 foot down if they're that deep.
Well, this time of the, gotta think. I always use, I can't never remember nothing. So it's take pictures of it. If I see a brush pile and I mark it, I have to take a picture of it with my telephone, because I won't never remember it. So I have to.
Pictures are great.
I
go back to my pictures all the time.
You don't have to write it in a book.
I see the time that I caught the fish. I see the location. We talked about that when Bill Carson was on here, man. This phone right here can be a reference book and something to go back to.
Yes.
If you got enough memory on there to save all.
Well, yeah, my iCloud's always full. Is what it tells me. But about the second, third week of February, that's when I love to go fish bridges at night.
Yeah.
Get them crappie that's starting to move up shallow.
Yeah.
Getting ready to spawn. And that's when we have caught the walleye.
Yeah.
At night.
At night.
Put your green lights out, crappie minnows out.
I've caught them under my light catching bait at Carter's.
And that makes sense to the nocturnalness.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I have caught them under the light, but very seldom have I ever seen them come way up in the light.
Right.
Like catfish and stripers and crappie will do sometimes. They'll come right up in the light and be circling it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many do that. They'll always hang out under that light.
Yeah.
Down under.
Where you got the cloud of bait on the depth finder and you see them lines that come up.
That's exactly
up
right.
to the bait.
Yeah, they're down up underneath. So, you know, my thing is this. These walleye up here, it's got to be a very popular thing. A lot of people are out there fishing for walleye. I've had a lot of people ask me about it. You know, how do you locate? How do you find these things? I say the same way you find any other kind of fish. You find where the bait is the most concentrated at, and you know, at Carter's, as we've talked about in the past, you got so much bait, you can't just pull up somewhere and say, oh, here's bait, let's fish here. You got to cut. You're going to have to keep riding until you find where there's a lot of bait and there's fish, and there's a lot of fish. But man, these walleye, I'm telling you, they will stay deep. When everything else is shallow, we'll be catching stripers and hybrids and spotty bass up shallow, and then walleye will be out real deep. So we catch a lot of walleye in the summertime.
Yeah.
And it's because we're downlining deep on, you know, 70, 80, 90 foot bottoms, you know, for stripers, and you'll pull them walleye up like that too. So they're a great eating fish, no doubt. Everybody knows that. They're great to eat. They're not, you know, walleye are not they're not a real aggressive fighting fish. So if you was going to go target them, I would recommend using a very lightweight setup. Yeah. That's why I personally wouldn't like trolling for them, because I feel like if you're trolling for them with all this different stuff like downriggers, dipsy divers, whatever, you're going to have some heavier rods. You can't be running a crappy rod on a big downrigger like we'd be trolling for striper. So, you know, if I was going to go out and say, all right, let's go try to catch some walleye, I would want to use that ultralight with that 8-10 pound test, with that flexed spoon, that 2-inch flexed spoon. Man, it's hard to beat this time of year. I'm sure you catch them on a lot of different kinds of spoons, you know. Yeah. But I would want to go, if you catch one up there right now and you cut it open, I guarantee you that thing's belly will be full of bait fish about that size right there. Yeah. So that's what I'd be doing, you know. But I'll tell you what, I caught about 2 years ago up there, we was trolling umbrella rigs for stripers. And we caught, in one morning trip, we caught 6 walleye on, it was kind of cloudy and overcast that day, but we caught 6 walleye on an umbrella rig. On the umbrella rig. And the one that I told Mac this, the one that they kept hitting was one of what he calls his pro rig. It's got the white bodied swim baits. It's got the little, the fish, the underspin. Yeah. It's got the little spin on it. There's something about that spin, that flash on that got those walleyes' attention. And that leads me to something else. So I know guys that also go out there and they use what I think they just call it like a walleye rig. It's got this little spinner and it's got a trailer off the back of it. And a lot of people will put a night crawler on the back of that thing and they'll slow troll those rigs. And that little spinner blade gets their attention. They come up and they hit the night crawler. I know a lot of guys that catch walleye that way, but it sounds like to me there's a lot of similarities in crappie fishing and walleye fishing, in the sense that you got to slow everything down. Maybe that's why striper guys don't catch a lot of crappie and a lot of walleye. It's just a, you know, kind of a bonus thing for us, I guess, if we pick them up. It's definitely a transition. Yeah. Because like from winter time to about spring, I start doing striper trips and stuff like that, and I have to come off of the finesse fishing to a little bit more aggressive hook set, not so much just a twitch. Yeah. Because on striper you need to bury the hook in his lip. Yeah, yeah. And then you go down to the Gulf trying to catch a grouper, and you come back and you start ripping stripers' lips and spotted bass lips. That's totally different. Hey, calm down, dude. Yeah, man. Hey, I get people all the time from Florida. Yeah. And man, I'm telling you, they'll jump on that rod like a striper ninja, man. Just on that thing, that rod's going crazy. And by that time, that fish has already felt all that crazy movement. He doesn't let go of it. Yeah. You know, I'm sure you've seen that over and over and over. Done it over and over again. I tell people, just chill out. When the rod, let him take it. When it goes down, just reel down on it, get the slack out of it. Don't do nothing crazy. If you do anything erratic, you're probably going to miss the fish, lose the fish. So, because I think I've said this on here before, but when that fish hits that bait and he pulls that rod down, just because that rod's down, don't necessarily mean that hook is hooked. He could have the bait in his mouth and be pulling down on it, but it ain't up in there yet. So if that fish feels something weird before you reel on it, He just opens his mouth and let go of it, it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's why we preach to people just a slow reel down, get the slack out of it, you know. I'm screaming at people all year long on the guide trips, reel, 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 reel. That's all, you know, if the rod goes down, just reel it.
I had a gentleman.
Don't set the hook.
Yeah, I had a gentleman this summer. Rod was doing funny. I told him just reel it up real slow. And when he did, it got right to the bottom of the boat there, and it was a hybrid holding a blueback sideways. Hook wasn't nowhere near his mouth. He just had the blueback holding it.
Yeah.
He let go and swim off.
Yeah.
He's like, man, he didn't have a hook in his mouth. Yeah.
So we got the jig guy. We got spot choker jigs guys that come on here. We appreciate those guys. I'm sure they make some crappy jigs too. Spot choker, or do they just do bass stuff?
I ain't 100% sure.
I'm not either, but we'll find out. So, yeah, we'd like to get them guys on here sometime too. So Tom said in the Midwest they troll Rapala diving type lures. I've heard a lot of people doing that, and live bait, leeches, night crawlers, shiners. I've caught them on shiners as well, and they use trolling boards too. So that's interesting. Yeah. So look, I've talked to some people that's walleye fished up north, and I think it's totally different. Even though the walleye thing is kind of got popular around here because people know that they've been stocked in these lakes. It's, you know, it's not a thing. I don't see anybody going out and just filling coolers full of walleye like they do up north. It's just not like that. I'm being honest, guys.
No, yeah.
Don't come to Carter's Lake expecting you're going to fill 2 coolers full of walleye. It's probably not going to happen. If you catch 7 or 8 of them up there in a half a day, you've done good, in my opinion. But now they're nice walleye. A lot of them I've caught them 7, 8 pounds up there. Really good ones. Where up north in places, they catch a lot more of them, but they're smaller ones, you know, which is great for eating anyway. Yeah. But just, you know, a totally different thing. So, Johnny, we're not going to get on that. That's a sore subject. He said he could use some walleye and crappie versus those green fish and the catfish. So, hey, don't be hating on them catfish. I like some good catfish now. I like to catch a big catfish every once in a while. And, you know, hey, we got to be careful what we say about bass guys too. We love them guys too. We got, you know, we done had Jim Farmer on here, and we got Lanier Jim coming in here, so we got to be careful what we say about spot. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you, man, as a guide, and I'm sure you can back me up on this. Sometimes them spotted bass will save the day.
Oh, yeah.
You got kids on your boat, and they ain't no stripers biting, or whatever you're going for is not biting. And you can get on a bunch of them 4 or 5 pound spots and live bait and let them kids catch them. That's a lifesaver sometimes.
It is.
But now you're gonna have guys that maybe they've done bass fishing artificial. They've caught them. They don't really want to do that. They don't want to go catch bass on live bait. Right. But you know, we get groups of trips, kids and families and stuff. They just want, at the end of the day, they just want to catch fish. So have you had crappie trips and striper trips turn into spot trips?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody has. Yeah. If they don't say that, they're lying. So,
especially in the spring when they're all up on the bank and shad rap number 7, just throw it up there and catch all the little old bass you won't.
Yeah. That's fun, you know. So, so Tom said he grew up fishing in Minnesota, but that was a long time ago before all this sonar stuff. He said there's big ones up there too. So yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures of big ones up there, but I've also seen pictures of a lot of them that they're just smaller. So, and Captain Hook, he's got a report. He's got a walleye report for us. He's actually been out there catching them. He said the walleye he caught this week was 70 foot deep trolling. The bite has been good as it can be here in the South. I understand what you're saying. But he said they sure don't fight worth a dang.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think that's the downfall to it. You know, the walleye, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest fish. It is the hardest fish on that lake to catch. The finicest fish to catch on that lake.
Yeah.
So, Sean Bray said spots can save the day. Sean knows because he's been on my boat before when them spots saved our day. He kept us from getting skunked. So, you know, hey, look, I appreciate all these guys coming in here. I've had a good time. This thing's flew by. I feel like I've learned a lot from you, man, and I'd love to set up something with you down the road and get out there and do something different. I'd love to go fishing with you.
Yeah.
So I want to say this. I meant to say it at the beginning, but I kind of forgot. But the way I got to know Adam or knew who he was, I had a customer that called me and they said, hey, look, I know you don't really do crappie, but we want to have a fish fry. We want to go crappie fishing. And the first person I thought of was Jeff Blair. So I text Jeff, and Jeff was, I can't remember if he was already booked or he was probably deer hunting. But he said, he couldn't do it, but he said, I got you, guy. And he sent me your name and number. So I forwarded that on over to my customer, and hopefully he got set up with you. That's been a couple years ago, so I don't remember. But anyway, that's how I got to know who you were. So for anybody out there that wants to go crappie fishing on Lake Lanier, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. Give them your phone number, website, whatever you got for them to get in touch with you.
Most of it's telephone number and 678-988-6840, or Facebook. It's Captain Adam Parker Crappie Fishing Guide, and that's how you can look me up.
Yeah, so go follow him on Facebook, give him a call, and so look, we've only been here for an hour, but Adam's a great guy, and like I said, I'd love to fish with him. And I can tell that you're passionate about what you're doing. You grew up on Lake Lanier, been fishing it a long time, and that time on the water, man, that's that, as I've said before, you can't replace that with anything. That experience and that time is priceless, and that's what I think people need to understand when you're booking a fishing trip. Even if you don't always get the results that you want, you're paying for more than just catching fish. You're paying for Adam's knowledge and his years of experience being out there, knowing where them brush piles are at, knowing where them places are. It's still not a guarantee, but it gives you a lot better chance when you go with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So give Adam a call if you want to go crappie fishing on Lake Lanier. And we appreciate everybody that's come in here with us tonight. I'm sorry we didn't really talk much about striper fishing, but we're going to get plenty of that on February 10th, which is only 2 weeks away. We got Robert Edison, Steve Mark coming in here, and we look forward to that. I've been looking forward to that. Robert is the guy that helped me get started and kind of mentored me, pointed me in the right direction. So to be able to get him to come in here and do this show with me is an honor. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all these guys right here. Like I said, February 24th, Lanier Jim's coming. March 10th, Clay Cunningham, catching, not fishing. Tate Watkins is going to come with him. I want to get Clay's son on here too, Carter. Mm-hmm. He's been burning up the bass stuff, so I'd like to get him on here too, man. I'm working on it. I messaged Clay earlier. And on March 28th, we got our friends with the Lonesome River Band, Sammy Sheeler. They was here last year. They're going to be coming in here. They're going to fish with me for 2 days, and we're going to come in here with them and do a show, talk fishing, and talk bluegrass music. So I'm looking forward to that. And we got some other stuff in the future, but I don't want to get too far ahead. But we're fixing to give away some Minn Kota hats. They are Minn Kota, right? No, Humminbird. That's not Minn Kota. They got Humminbird. Pretty much the same thing. But we're giving away these 2 hats right here for all these people that have that's hooked me up. All right, so Mike Chastain said that Lanier Jim is rigging his boat with new electronics in a couple weeks. So I'm glad that one of our followers has got hooked up with Lanier Jim, because we've talked him up on here. Don't let me down, James, on that. Hook my buddy Mike Chastain up on his electronics. So, all right, we're fixing to give away a hat right here. Go ahead. You draw it, man. You're our guest. You're going to draw it right here.
Here you go. You read it.
All right. Who we got? Keith Shambly. All right, so look, I'm going to make a proposition, Keith. You've already won. I'm pretty sure you've already won a hat and some merchandise. So if you want us to redraw, we will. If you want the hat, I'll send you the hat. You just tell me what you want me to do. Let's draw another one in the meantime. I think Keith's still on here. Mike Chastain. I hope you putting the birds on the boat, man, because you just got a hummingbird hat. So all right, Keith ain't coming on here and telling us nothing, but if not, we'll send Keith another hat, but I'm pretty sure I didn't send him the same exact hat. But either way, I appreciate everybody. Man, we'll give it just a few more. We got just a couple more minutes, so we'll give it a few minutes and see if, all right. Oh, Keith don't have that color. Okay, all right, that's cool. We're gonna send you the hat. And then Mike Chastain is putting the hummingbirds on his boat.
Good call.
So that's a good call, man. I'm hummingbird all the way. The bird don't lie. I mean, you can find them. I don't care if it's stripers, bass, walleye, or whatever it is. The bird can find them.
It can find them.
It can find them, and they're coming out with you know, with a lot of new stuff right now that I think is only going to better us as fishermen. It's gonna, you know, it's putting us in a position where if other people that's got it and we don't have it, we're gonna have to step up. You know, we're gonna have to upgrade to try to keep up with the times. That's just part of it. So I'm working on that right now. Oh, Tom Pickett, see, Explorer 12 installed today. He got the new Hummingbird unit, so hey, that's great, man. I mean, I'm all about, like I say, Bill Carson was very generous in coming in here and spending his time with us, and he actually brought a sonar unit, set it up, explained to people, you know, some new things about this new unit coming out, and I'm all about supporting our Hummingbird stuff. Bill's been great to us. You know, Mac's another good guy you can call and ask questions to about it. And LJ, he's a bird guy too, man. We're all bird brothers. So, all right. So we appreciate everybody that's come on here. And what we got? We got somebody. What do we got? Keith Shambley said, "Go ahead and draw another one for somewhere else." He's not going to be stingy with the merchandise. So, all right, give me the hat. Let's draw another one. Mike Chastain, he's already won a. I'm gonna mix this thing up good, man. Oh, there's Keith McKinnon's name. I gotta mix up. I gotta jump over. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. Kenny Hall. Kenny Hall. I seen his name on here earlier. All right, Kenny Hall. So you got a hat. You just won a hat. I hope you're a bird guy too, but if not, we're gonna send you a hat anyway. So look, these people. I know Mike Chastain. He lives here pretty close. I can get him his hat. I probably won't even ship it to him. I can just meet him sometime. But Kenny Hall, you. Send me your mailing address and I'll get this hat out to you, buddy. So look, I appreciate everybody that's come in here and all the support. It's been a great show. I appreciate Adam coming in here and talking crappie with us, and I've had a great time. So I want to thank, if it wasn't for our great partners, we wouldn't be able to even, this wouldn't even be possible. So I want to thank B&B Custom Outdoor Rods, AA Graphics and Signs, Jill of All Trades, Simpson Trucking and Grading, Tangle Trout Cabin Rentals, our good friend Captain Mac, and Heads Up 2 Taxidermy. Appreciate all our sponsors, and I'd like to say, Adam, I've had a great time, and I hope you'll come back and be with us sometime. But if not, we're going to go fishing.
Yes.
We're going to go fishing, whether it's crappie, stripers, or walleye, or something. We're going to get out there and go fishing sometime.
It's the time to get after them crappie. We have to go do it.
You got to do it now. It's a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
So give Adam a call and book that crappie trip, and appreciate everybody. And until next time, we'll see you guys on February 10th with Robert Edison and Steve Marks. So we're going to check out and get in the bed. So we appreciate everybody that's tuned in. We'll see you next time, guys. Appreciate it.